No one expected that behind Jungkook's popularity, which seems to have always been controlled by a great power called HYBE, there is a side that has almost never been highlighted, the side that shows that he is not a puppet of a giant entertainment industry system, but an individual who knows exactly what he wants, how he wants to be seen, and when he should take control of his own life. The moment comes not through direct statement, nor through open conflict, but through a series of small actions that are assembled with strategy, self-awareness, and extraordinary courage. The world may only see Jungkook as the golden maknae, but behind the scenes there's a long process in which he slowly but surely separates himself from HYBE's shadow. It all starts with seemingly simple decisions, such as the choice of schedule, the direction of the music, to where it goes when the public is not told. But if carefully arranged, each of those steps forms one big, clear pattern. Jungkook is no longer submissive. It all started long before the public realized that something was changing. After a period of massive promotion for his solo album that shook the world, Jungkook seems to be starting to set the rhythm of his own career. Many thought it was just part of the agency's strategy. But behind the scenes, those closest to him are beginning to realize that Jungkook himself determines when he appears, when he disappears, and when he wants the world to wonder where he went. While many other artists follow timelines and narratives, Jungkook has created a new habit, letting mystery be part of his image. He did not let HYBE release any details of his activities. Some sources in the industry even mentioned that the internal team was confused because Jungkook often rejected some agendas for personal reasons, something that rarely happened before. He refused to appear at certain events, chose not to attend events that had been planned, and even appeared in places that were not announced at all. Each of those decisions creates one thing: freedom. It is not freedom that is heroically announced, but freedom that feels tacit, elegant, and calculating. And at that point, HYBE seems to have just realized that they are no longer in complete control of the narrative. Jungkook is no longer an artist waiting for orders. He is his own life planner. When his solo album Golden was released, many observers thought it was all the result of HYBE's marketing strategy. But if you look deeper, Jungkook's musical decisions are very far from the BTS formula in general. He chose a global pop R&B genre with a very Western twist, working with overseas producers and removing almost all the traditional K-pop elements that his agency usually favors. Jungkook insists that he wants to be known not as a Korean idol trying to keep up with the market, but as a global musician who can create a cross-border identity. His choice of collaborators, from Jack Harlow, Major Lazer, to David Guetta, shows that this is not just another HYBE project, but rather a personal vision that he wants to maintain. Some sources from inside even said that Jungkook had direct control over the mixing, the concept of the video, to the selection of promotional photos. He rejected several ideas from HYBE's creative team because they were considered too safe or too idolized. He wanted to be bolder, more real, and more authentic. The result? The Western music world is giving recognition not just because of BTS' big name, but because Jungkook comes across as an independent artist who knows what he wants to say through his music. This is where that personal control begins to be felt. HYBE may be holding the brand, but Jungkook is holding the direction. After the promotion period ends, the public is waiting for the next step. But what happened was a long silence. No official schedule, no new projects, no big public appearances. Only one thing is interesting. Jungkook is starting to be seen in places not listed on HYBE's agenda. One of them is his appearances abroad, such as when he arrived in Los Angeles, then Japan, without any official announcement. Fans began to ask, is this a personal agenda or a secret project that even HYBE has not yet announced? Apparently, according to the fashion industry report, several important meetings between Jungkook and major brands such as Calvin Klein, Levi's, and 2 European perfume brands took place outside the agency's coordination. He builds communication directly with the brand's creative team, not through HYBE's manager. This showed a major shift. Jungkook began to take full control of his cooperation. He is no longer just a model of the agency's promotional strategy, but a direct partner who has a say in the visual concept and direction of the brand. In the Korean entertainment world, such a move is quite rare. Normally, all communication has to go through an agency, but Jungkook does it himself. As a result, the fashion world now considers Jungkook not just a brand ambassador, but an independent figure with artistic authority. As HYBE continues to push the big narrative around BTS and the group's future plans, Jungkook is instead building a parallel image that is almost completely separate from that agenda. He didn't argue, but he didn't voice either. Every time he appears on social media, what he displays is not an agency's promotional message, but a personal expression, a song he listens to, a place he goes to, or just a photo that feels very spontaneous. In the idol world, which is usually set up to the caption, Jungkook writes as he pleases. Fans call it silent rebellion. Not with loud words, but through small quirks that change the pattern of interaction between the artist and his system. On the other hand, HYBE tried to still steer public opinion with cautious statements, stressing that Jungkook is still focused with BTS. But the world knows there is a widening gap between Jungkook as a global artist and Jungkook in HYBE's narrative. Western media began to write about him as a free artist, while Korean outlets seemed more cautious, as if knowing that the line between independence and loyalty was now blurring. The highlight came when Jungkook made a surprise comeback with an unannounced international fashion project. At that time, HYBE had not even had time to give a statement, but Jungkook's videos and photos had gone viral around the world. Within 24 hours, his name was trending in 40 countries, while brands he worked with raked in millions of dollars in stock value. Industry analysts refer to this phenomenon as the Jungkook effect, the power of organic promotion without a corporate system. He doesn't need a press release, he doesn't need a big announcement. He just shows up and the world reacts. It was from that point that the public began to realize that Jungkook truly stood outside the control of his agency. It is no longer a part of the system to be looked after, it is the system itself. His every step becomes a benchmark, his every silence a question mark stronger than any promotion. And in a world as controlled as the K-pop industry, Jungkook's move is the biggest statement yet. He doesn't have to fight to win, he just has to walk in the direction he believes in. Now, HYBE may still hold on to BTS's big name, but Jungkook has proven that true control doesn't come from contracts, but from the courage to choose. He is a clear example that even in the strictest entertainment world, there is room for someone to say in silence, "I cannot be controlled." Not all changes come with a bang. Sometimes it is the silence that is most disturbing. That's what happened when Jungkook suddenly chose not to appear in a number of public activities that were previously synonymous with HYBE promotions. No official announcement, no apparent reason. But for fans who have been watching his movement patterns for a long time, the decision feels like a signal. He is not resting, he is preparing something that does not involve the hands of corporations. As the media began to wonder, HYBE was silent. However, on social media, rumors began to spread. Some fan sites in Korea said Jungkook was spotted with a famous Japanese fashion photographer, and reportedly, the project was not listed on HYBE's official agenda. Sources from the fashion industry even mentioned that there was a secret meeting between Jungkook and the creative director of Calvin Klein Asia in Tokyo, all done privately without agency announcements. The move shook the system. In the usually highly structured world of K-pop, independent acts like this are almost impossible. But Jungkook did so without saying much, as if to send a subtle message: I know when to show up, and I know when to be quiet. When the photos finally went public, the world couldn't help but react. Hashtags about Jungkook are breaking global trends, and fashion brands are vying to link to his name to join the flood of exposure. Within 12 hours, the post featuring Jungkook wearing a CK denim jacket reached 10 million views. And ironically, HYBE hadn't even had time to write a single sentence about it. The world knew it first. The world is already moving faster than agencies. This is clear evidence that Jungkook is now walking his own path. At this point, HYBE faced a huge dilemma. In a way, they know Jungkook is the most powerful asset they have. On the other hand, they realize that their power is no longer fully in their control. Every step Jungkook takes now has a direct impact on the company's global stock, reputation, and strategic direction. But in the entertainment world, too big means too unruly. HYBE began to be cautious in every official release that mentioned Jungkook's name. No more set-up tones, everything sounds like accompanying. However, for fans and the international media, the change was obvious. Jungkook was no longer a HYBE star. He was already a star that belongs to the world. In interviews with several global outlets, entertainment industry analysts have referred to this phenomenon as the post-agency era, a time when artists no longer rely on the agency system to maintain fame, but instead rely on their own personal power and global network. And who is the most vivid example of this theory? Jungkook. In fact, some reports from New York say that a number of American labels are trying to approach him directly without going through HYBE, something that is rare for an active K-pop artist. They wanted to speak directly with Jungkook, as they knew decision-making was no longer 100% in the hands of his agency. The entertainment world is now looking at this phenomenon not as a conflict, but as an evolution. Jungkook has shown that modern global stars don't need to rely entirely on big institutions to stay shining. He is simply being himself, and that is already stronger than any strategy that can be written in a board meeting. Interestingly, Jungkook's power is no longer limited to popularity. It has become an economic and cultural ecosystem in its own right. When he wore something, the product was sold out. When he mentions a song on his playlist, it instantly rises to the global charts. When he took pictures in a seemingly ordinary location, the place turned into a tourist destination. This phenomenon has led many observers to refer to Jungkook as the modern cultural engine. A cultural engine that rotates the economy without direct promotion. And here comes the big difference with artists in general. Normally, these kinds of effects are managed by large agencies through marketing teams, but Jungkook produces them organically. Even without words, it can create trends. HYBE, of course, saw this potential. But the more they tried to adjust course with Jungkook, the clearer it became that they were not in ultimate control. The world knows who really leads. Stock analysts began to note an interesting pattern. Each time Jungkook appeared outside of HYBE's official agenda, the market value of the associated brand rose more significantly than the officially announced promotion. This is not a coincidence. This is evidence. The public trusts Jungkook more than any institution, and in a modern world where image can change in seconds, that trust is worth more than the entire PR strategy combined. He not only changed the relationship between artists and agencies, but also redefined the meaning of control in the global entertainment industry. There is one thing that always sets Jungkook apart from other artists. He rarely talks, but his every action speaks louder than 1,000 words. He made no statements against, never declared war with the system, but the public could feel his energy. When he refuses to appear on a certain broadcast, people know it's not because of the schedule. When he chose to appear on outside brands, without HYBE's statement, people knew it was a personal decision. And every time it happens, the public respects it even more. He became a symbol of freedom in a system that had been notoriously strict. In a previous interview, Jungkook said, "I want to live at my own pace." Maybe it sounds simple, but if we pay attention, that is the motto that he now lives fully. It lives to its own rhythm, even as the world tries to set the tempo. HYBE may have a contract, but Jungkook has direction. He has proven that true power does not come from external control, but from internal clarity, and therein lies its greatness. It does not need to resist to win. It does not need to shout to be heard. It just needs to be itself, and the world will follow. Now, after all of that, one thing is clear. Jungkook not only proved that HYBE can't control him, but also showed that modern artists can have complete control without having to cut ties. It does not go out, does not rebel, but shifts the center of gravity of control from the company to itself. This step will be a new example for the next generation that in the digital age, personal voice can be stronger than any management system. And most interestingly, Jungkook did it in a beautiful way. Calm, elegant, calculating, and still respectful of his origin. He's not against HYBE. He's just showing that he doesn't need to be controlled to remain a part of something big. Now, as the world looks to the future of BTS and HYBE, one thing is certain. No one can predict Jungkook's future. He walked his own path, and as always, the whole world could only stare and say, Jungkook just proved that he can't be controlled, and that is the reason why he will always be one step ahead of everyone.